In this module, we're going to look at the Windows printer driver. We're going to look at how Photoshop offers some enhancements for color management. We're going to look at how the standard Windows printer driver works with other applications. We're going to look at print quality settings, color adjustments, borderless printing, sizing, custom pages, and creating favorites. So let's start the training by looking at how Photoshop is unique. And we'll start by going under the File and Print menu to open up the Print dialog box in Photoshop. So once this dialog box opens, we're presented with the option to select our printer setup, which means we can choose the appropriate printer to print to. The next section we're going to look at is color management. And in the color management section, we have the ability to choose our method of doing the color management. So it's important to understand the distinction here. One is the printer manages color, and the other one is Photoshop manages the color. So under Photoshop, when you select that, it's important to select the appropriate profile, printer profile, for the media that you're going to print to. So in this case, it's going to be selecting an ICC profile for that media. And this is going to create a color conversion for the media. As well, now we want to always select normal printing. The render intent should be perceptual, and we want to turn on black point compensation. Now, as a rule, I recommend that you leave black point compensation on all the time. It will have little or no impact on the perceptual rendering intent, but it will have a benefit for the relative colorimetric rendering intent, where it will open up the shadow detail slightly. Now, there are other areas of this dialog box where you can adjust the various components of the image in terms of the scale sizing. You can adjust your height and width. You can adjust the various different units of measurement, and you can turn on various crop marks and printing descriptions to help you better trim or label. We're making sure that we select an ICC profile here. So when we hit the print settings, it's important. Remember we said we have to disable color management within the printer's dialog boxes. So this is where we're going to do that. We're going to make sure that we deselect color management in this dialog box to ensure that we're not double color managing. It's very important to understand that. So under the advanced settings, we can go into the custom setting. We can choose our paper for the same media that we had chosen in the dialog box before, a glossy photo paper. The same as the glossy photo paper in here, and no color correction. So you can see the importance. We've got the color mode, no color correction, because we have chosen an ICC profile in the Photoshop's dialog box before. We used Photoshop to manage colors, which says we need to disable the color management within the driver, which is what we've done. Under color mode, we've said no color management. And here we have the option to choose our print quality. And generally, you're going to find that the standard 600 dpi option is the best. We have the ability to make small adjustments to the file within the color adjustments dialog box, and you can determine the type of image and sample you want to see the adjustments and how the adjustments are being made. A rule of thumb, if you have to make more than a 5% adjustment, then generally there's a problem with your settings, and you'd want to reevaluate and go back and look at all the settings, because you shouldn't have to make an adjustment of more than a few percent. So here we're going to determine whether we want to turn on thick fine lines or unidirectional printing. Generally, unidirectional printing we're going to leave off, as bidirectional, where it prints ink in both directions of the head pass, is preferred, and it is faster. We can also determine if we want to open a preview when the job starts. So let's click OK here, and that's going to take us back to the Photoshop print settings dialog box, where we're going to change the color handling mode to now say the printer manages colors. So that's going to dim the printer profile. We no longer have that selection, because now we're going to enable printer color management in the driver. The print settings dialog box and the driver now need to be invoked because we've turned it off in Photoshop. So it's important to make the distinction that in the example that we're showing, we are printing out of Photoshop, but this is the dialog box that you would see if you were printing from other applications such as Microsoft Word or Adobe Acrobat. So here we have what are called print targets under the easy settings. This gives us the ability to quickly make a selection based on our requirements for printing. You obviously can go into the advanced and change these. So there's a number of different presets. You've got photo color, which is looking at an sRGB. You've got photo color as an Adobe RGB. So notice that you've got sRGB as the document profile, And this setting for photo color is also using sRGB. It's good to match those up. If your incoming document had Adobe, it would be more preferred to use that one. The poster color adds a little bit more impact, a little more saturation, if you will, to the image, as it uses the rendering intent saturation. And here you can see and look at the details that are available for each of these print targets. So you can say OK to get out of that dialog box. So the next tab we want to take a look at is the Page Setup tab. Now here we're going to define our paper size for our document. Now as a general rule, the page size should match the artwork size. And on the left you can see that we have a 16 by 12 is our actual size, and we can create a 16 by 12 output size. If your artwork page size is larger than the selected paper size, then you will get white space around your image. If you select a smaller page size, then the printer will crop the image. If you have non-standard sized artwork, then you need to create a custom page size under the custom paper size. But if you do that, keep in mind that there are minimum and maximum page sizes. Now, depending upon your printer model, if you're using a roll, cut sheet, or manual feed, the min and max sizes can vary. For example, on a printer with a 24-inch roll, you have a minimum page width of 3.94 inches and a minimum height of 8 inches. If your artwork falls outside of the min and max, then you need to resize the original artwork using a program such as Photoshop, or you can use the Fit Roll Width option under the Reduce and Enlarge Printing. This will bypass the page size requirements, and it will scale your artwork to fit to the roll width. We also have the option to do borderless printing. And when you click on the borderless printing tab, make sure that you have enough image area around the sides, because it will automatically expand your image by 3 millimeters on all sides to make sure that there are no white spaces, so that it has the area to expand out. You also need to tell the software what size of paper it's going to expand the image to fit, if it's a roll, or you can also have it fit to a paper size in borderless printing. So if that's the case, then you could select paper size, or you can scale to the roll width, depends on what you have loaded in the printer. So if we turn off borderless printing, we can look at some of the other options. We have the option to determine whether the orientation is going to be landscape or portrait. When borderless printing is turned off, we still have to let the software know what size of a roll that is loaded. So we have to always have that set. As well, we can determine if automatic cutting and banner printing is going to be invoked. The output method allows us to save an image to the hard drive of the printer. So if you're going to want to reprint a job later and access it quickly, you can have it sent to the printer's hard drive. That's called a mailbox location, and you can then invoke that at a later time. The paper size options button allows you to customize that pull-down menu as well as create custom paper sizes. You can change the units from inches to millimeters, whichever is more convenient for you. If we're going to create a custom paper size, we need to name it first. In this case, we're going to create a custom paper size that's 18 by 14. That's the name of the paper that we put in the top. So we want to make sure that we invoke and put in the same values in the width and the height. So now we have a new paper size that's 18 by 14. We can click on the Add button, and now it shows up in the list. Anything with a red dot is a preset. Anything without is a custom paper size that you've created. You can add and delete here those ones in the list. We can also shorten and reduce the number of presets that are available in that pull-down menu by deselecting some of the ones here. So it depends on what you use. You may want to turn some on and some off if you're never using them. So we say OK to that dialog box. And now when we go back into the paper size pull-down menu, you can see that there's only a few available in that menu. Pull-down menu has been reduced. The next option is the Layout tab, and here we can place a watermark on top of the image if you want to say draft or proof for a client. We can also determine if the print is centered in the paper, if it's rotated. No space top and bottom is good to leave on because it will conserve paper and cut away any excess white space on the bottom. And favorites, it can be used as well as a way to make sure that if you're going to reprint a job later, that you can save the information in terms of how it was printed. You can give it a name and associate an icon with that favorite. Add a comment about the job, maybe a customer job number or some comments about that particular job. So you have the ability to edit and add and delete the favorites. You can change the order of which that favorite shows up. So this can be helpful again for reprinting jobs, that it'll save all the document settings. Under maintenance, you have some basic information or settings that you can access, as well as under support. So once we're finished, we always want to go back to the main tab and review and make sure that we have our print target properly selected and our media type, that nothing has changed in there before we say OK, that we are managing color in the right way in relationship to how the Photoshop portion is done. So if that's it, you just say OK to close that portion of the dialog box. And again, just a quick review of the Photoshop settings, and we can say OK and print.